As you watch this video, kindly like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel so that whenever I post a new video, you'll be the first to be notified. If someone had told me years ago that I would throw away my beautiful wife and precious son for another woman, I would have laughed in their face. Amara and I had built our life together from scratch. She had been there when I had nothing, when I was struggling to make a name for myself in the real estate business. She supported me through the long nights, encouraged me when I failed, and celebrated with me when I finally succeeded. I owed everything to her. And Jason, our 5-year-old son, was the light of my life. He was playful, curious, and full of energy. Every evening when I came home from work, he would run into my arms shouting, "Daddy, Daddy," and I would lift him high into the air, making him giggle. We were a happy family. We had everything: love, laughter, and a beautiful home. I thought nothing could ever come between us. But I was wrong. My downfall began the day Vanessa walked into my office. It was a bright Monday morning when Vanessa arrived for an interview at my company. I remember it clearly because from the moment she stepped into the room, something about her caught my attention. She was stunning. Her skin was dark and smooth, her curves were perfectly shaped, and she had the kind of beauty that made men turn their heads. But it wasn't just her looks, it was the way she carried herself. Confident, graceful, and completely in control. She smiled at me as she sat across from my desk, and I felt something shift inside me. I barely looked at her resume. Her experience didn't matter. I had already made my decision. "You're hired," I said, interrupting her mid-sentence. She blinked in surprise. "Oh, thank you, sir." "Call me Daniel," I said, smiling. That was my first mistake. At first, everything seemed normal. Vanessa was an excellent employee. She was efficient, organized, and always knew exactly what I needed before I even asked. My business was running better than ever with her around. But soon little things started to change. I began looking forward to seeing her every morning. Whenever she walked into my office, my mood instantly improved. When she laughed, it sounded like the sweetest music I had ever heard. If she wore a new dress, I noticed. If she changed her hairstyle, I complimented her. At home, things were different. Amara, the woman I had once adored, started irritating me for no reason. She would greet me at the door, like she always did, but instead of feeling happy, I felt annoyed. "Welcome home, honey," she would say with a warm smile, reaching for my briefcase. "I can handle it myself," I snapped one evening, brushing past her. She looked hurt but said nothing. When Jason ran up to hug me, I barely paid him any attention. "Daddy, look at the drawing I made in school today," he said, holding up a picture of our family. I glanced at it briefly. "That's nice, Jason," I muttered, walking past him. Amara noticed my change in behavior. "Daniel, what's wrong?" she asked one night as we lay in bed. "Nothing," I said, scrolling through my phone. "You've been distant lately. You barely talk to me. You don't play with Jason anymore." I sighed in frustration. "Amara, must you question everything?" She frowned. "I just want to know what's going on. We used to talk about everything. Now, it's like I don't even know you." "I've been busy," I replied coldly. "Stop nagging me." She turned away from me in silence. That night, we slept facing opposite directions. I didn't realize it at the time, but that was the night I truly started losing my family. One evening, Vanessa and I were the last two people in the office. Everyone else had gone home. I was sitting at my desk, rubbing my temples. "You look stressed, sir," she said, standing by the door. I looked up at her. She was wearing a red dress that hugged her curves in all the right places. I smirked. "Daniel. Call me Daniel." She bit her lips slightly and nodded. "Okay, Daniel." She walked closer and placed a cup of coffee on my desk. "You work too hard. You need to take care of yourself." I stared at her, feeling something stir inside me. Before I knew what I was doing, I reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. I stood up slowly, still holding her hand, and she looked up at me with those big, brown eyes. And then I kissed her. That kiss sealed my fate. From that moment on, there was no turning back. The next day, I went home and told Amara I wanted a divorce.
She froze. What?
I don't love you anymore, I said flatly. She let out a shaky breath. Daniel, please think about Jason. He needs his father. He'll be fine, I said, avoiding her eyes. I'll send money for him. Her eyes filled with tears. Is there someone else? I hesitated. That was answer enough. Amara's legs gave out, and she collapsed onto the couch, sobbing. Jason, who had been playing in the next room, came running in. Mommy? Why are you crying? She wiped her tears quickly. It's nothing, baby. I turned away. I didn't want to see the pain in her eyes. I didn't want to face the reality of what I was doing. The next morning, I packed Amara's bags and told her to leave. She had nowhere to go. Her parents were dead, and her only sibling was struggling to survive. She stood at the door, holding Jason's tiny hand. You're making a mistake, she whispered. One day, you will regret this. I scoffed. Just go. She walked away with Jason, and I didn't look back. That same evening, I moved Vanessa into my house. And just like that, I destroyed my own family. I thought I was finally free, finally with the woman I truly wanted. But little did I know, I was about to enter the worst nightmare of my life. At first, life with Vanessa felt exciting. Everything about her was new. Her laughter, her touch, the way she made me feel like I was the most important man in the world. Unlike Amara, she didn't ask me endless questions about my day or nag me about spending time with Jason. She was fun, adventurous, and always full of energy. For the first few weeks, I convinced myself I had made the right choice. I spent money on her without thinking twice. Expensive clothes, designer bags, weekend trips to luxury resorts. I didn't mind. I was rich. I could afford it. But soon, things started changing. At first, they were small changes. A strange heaviness in my chest whenever I was alone. A fog in my mind that made it hard to think clearly. A growing sense of restlessness that I couldn't explain. Then, bigger things started happening. My company had always been stable. It had taken me years to build my real estate empire, and I was proud of how far I had come. But suddenly, everything started falling apart. Clients who had been eager to close deals with me began pulling out without explanation. Investors stopped returning my calls. Projects that should have been completed smoothly ran into unexpected issues. One day, my accountant walked into my office with a concerned look on his face. Sir, I need to speak with you. I barely glanced up from my laptop. What is it, Felix? He hesitated before placing a file on my desk. We're losing money, sir. A lot of money. I frowned and opened the file. The numbers didn't make sense. I had never seen my company in such a bad financial state. How is this possible? I asked, feeling a headache forming. Felix sighed. Bad investments, canceled deals, delayed payments. It's like everything is going wrong at the same time. I ran a hand over my face. We'll fix it. Just give me time. But time didn't fix anything. It only made things worse. At home, Vanessa was different from the woman I thought I had fallen for. She was no longer the sweet, humble assistant I had hired. Now she was demanding. She wanted more jewelry, more vacations, more money. If I didn't give her what she wanted immediately, she would throw tantrums like a spoiled child. Daniel, why are you acting like this? She snapped one evening when I refused to buy her a car she had been eyeing. You have money. Why are you suddenly stingy? I rubbed my temples, feeling the now familiar fog clouding my thoughts. Vanessa, my business is struggling. I need to be careful with expenses.
She scoffed.
That's your problem, not mine. I left everything to be with you. The least you can do is take care of me. I stared at her, confused. She left everything? What had she left? She had nothing before she met me. But before I could respond, the fog in my mind grew heavier, making it difficult to argue. Fine, I muttered. I'll get the car. She smiled and kissed me.
See?
That wasn't so hard. I should have been angry. I should have stood my ground. But I couldn't. It was like I had lost control over my own decisions. Strangely, I hardly ever thought about Amara or Jason. It was as if my mind had erased them completely. On the rare occasions that their faces crossed my mind, a strange pressure would build in my head, making me feel dizzy. Within seconds, I would forget them again, as if they had never existed. One evening, while sitting in my study, I picked up an old business file. When I flipped it open, I found a small drawing tucked inside. It was a child's sketch of a family, a man, a woman, and a little boy. For a moment, something in my chest tightened. The picture looked familiar. The little boy had a big smile and curly hair. Jason? The name floated in my mind, but before I could grasp it, a sharp pain shot through my head. I groaned, clutching my temples. "Baby, are you okay?" Vanessa's voice called from the hallway. I quickly shoved the drawing back into the file, my vision blurring. "Yeah, I'm fine." But I wasn't fine. Something was wrong. Then, one fateful day, everything changed. My office had been long overdue for a deep cleaning. Over the years, files had piled up, dust had gathered in forgotten corners, and the shelves had become cluttered with old documents. Michael, one of my longest-serving employees, led the cleanup. As they moved old furniture and cleared shelves, something strange happened. Michael was dusting off the shelf behind my desk when his hand brushed against something hidden at the back. It was a small red cloth, tightly wrapped around an object. Curious, he pulled it out and unfolded it. Inside was a picture of me. The photograph was folded and stained with an oily substance. The moment Michael saw it, he felt a chill run down his spine. He had grown up in a traditional home and knew exactly what it was. Juju. Without telling anyone, he slipped the red cloth and picture into his pocket. His heart pounded as he left the office early, heading straight to his pastor's house. The moment the pastor saw the cloth, his face darkened. "This is witchcraft," he said firmly. "Your boss has been under a spell." Michael felt his throat go dry. "Can it be broken?" The pastor nodded.
Yes.
"But we must pray." They prayed over the cloth, calling upon God to break whatever dark power had been placed on me. After a long session of prayers, the pastor sighed in relief.
"It is done," he said.
"Your boss is now free from any bondage or manipulation." Michael left the church feeling a mix of fear and excitement. He didn't fully understand what had just happened, but he knew one thing: something big was about to change. That same evening, I was driving home with Vanessa beside me. She was talking about a new jewelry set she wanted when, suddenly, something inside me shifted. The fog in my mind lifted, and my thoughts became clear for the first time in years. I turned to Vanessa, frowning. "Why are you in my car?" I asked. She laughed. "What do you mean?" I shook my head. "Why am I driving you home?" Her smile faltered. "Daniel, I'm your wife." Her words sent a chill down my spine.
Wife.
I blinked, memories rushing back all at once.
Amara.
Jason. Their faces, their voices, their love. Everything came flooding back like a tidal wave. I slammed the brakes, my breathing heavy.
"Get out," I said.
Vanessa looked at me like I had lost my mind.
"What?"
I said, "Get out." My voice was sharp, filled with an anger I didn't even know I had. She hesitated, then slowly unbuckled her seatbelt. "Daniel, you're acting strange." I said, "Get out." I roared. Terrified, she grabbed her purse and stepped out of the car. The moment the door shut, I turned the car around and sped off. I had only one destination in mind. I was going home. To my real wife. To my son. And I was ready to beg for forgiveness. I drove like a madman through the city, my heart pounding in my chest. Everything that had been hidden from me for years came rushing back. Amara's smile, Jason's laughter, the warmth of our home. The realization of what I had done hit me like a hammer to the chest. I had abandoned them. I had thrown away the two people who truly loved me for a woman who had cast a spell over my life. The guilt was unbearable. By the time I reached Amara's parents' house, my hands were shaking. It was late, but I didn't care. I knocked furiously on the door, desperate to see them. The door opened slowly, and there she was, Amara. She looked different. Thinner. Tired. There were dark circles under her eyes, and the light in her face had dimmed. But she was still as beautiful as ever. She stared at me in shock. Daniel? Hearing my name from her lips nearly broke me. Amara? My voice cracked. I don't know what happened to me. I don't know what came over me. She didn't say a word, just stared at me with an unreadable expression. Then, from behind her, a small figure appeared. Jason. His curly hair was messy from sleep, and he rubbed his eyes as he peered up at me.
Daddy.
His voice was small, hesitant. Tears filled my eyes. Jason, my boy. I knelt and opened my arms.
He didn't run to me.
He just stood there, confused. That was when I realized the damage I had done. My son barely recognized me. Please, Amara, let me explain, I pleaded. I made a terrible mistake. I was blind. I wasn't myself. I swear I never meant to hurt you. She folded her arms across her chest. You didn't just hurt me, Daniel. You destroyed me. You destroyed us. Her words cut deep. I had expected anger, maybe even tears, but what scared me the most was the emptiness in her eyes. I was under a spell. I tried to explain. Vanessa, she used something on me. A charm. I swear, I wasn't in my right mind. She let out a bitter laugh. A spell? That's your excuse. It's the truth. My voice was desperate. One of my workers found the charm hidden in my office. A pastor prayed over it, and the moment it was broken, my mind cleared. That's why I'm here, Amara. I see everything now. I see what I did. And I would do anything to make it right. She shook her head. Daniel, do you have any idea what Jason and I went through? Do you know what it's like to be abandoned? To be thrown out like trash? I swallowed hard. I can only imagine, and that's why I'm here. I don't deserve your forgiveness, I know that. But I'm begging for it. Jason tugged at Amara's dress. Mommy, is Daddy staying? Amara sighed and looked at me. Jason, go back inside, okay? Jason hesitated, then nodded and disappeared into the house. She turned back to me. I don't know if I can ever trust you again, Daniel. You left us when we needed you the most. Tears streamed down my face. I know, and I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you. She stared at me for what felt like an eternity. Then, finally, she sighed. I don't know if I can ever forget, but for Jason's sake, I will forgive you. My chest tightened in relief. Thank you, Amara. Thank you. But I knew this was just the beginning. I had a long way to go to prove myself. The next morning, I went to my office feeling like a new man. My employees looked at me strangely, almost as if they didn't recognize me. Good morning, sir, Michael greeted, watching me carefully. I nodded. Michael, I need to thank you. You saved my life. He smiled slightly. I just did what was right, sir. As I settled into my office, a loud commotion erupted in the hallway. Where is it? It was Vanessa's voice. She stormed into my office, her eyes wild and frantic. Her usually perfect hair was messy, and her face looked pale. She didn't even greet me. She went straight to the shelves, pulling books down, searching through drawers, flipping over every object she could find. Looking for something? Michael asked, leaning against the doorframe. Vanessa's head snapped up. Where is it? She demanded. Where is my red cloth? I stood, crossing my arms. So, you admit it. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. I don't know what you mean. I let out a cold laugh. Oh, come on, Vanessa. Stop pretending. We all know what you did. You used charm to control me. You made me abandon my wife and son. But it's over now. The spell is broken. Her breathing became rapid. No, no, no. This can't be happening. Michael smirked. It is happening. And guess what? You're finished. Before she could react, I pressed the intercom button. Security, come to my office immediately. Panic flashed in Vanessa's eyes. Daniel, please, you don't understand. I just wanted a better life. No rich man ever wanted me. I had no other choice. I shook my head in disgust. So, you decided to trap me instead? You ruined my life, Vanessa. You stole years from me. You made my own son fear me. Tears streamed down her face. Please, I'm sorry.
Give me another chance.
The security guards arrived, grabbing her by the arms. She struggled, screaming, Daniel, please. Don't do this. I love you. I met her gaze one last time. You don't know what love is. With that, she was dragged out of my office. By the end of the day, Vanessa was officially fired from the company and banned from ever stepping foot in the community again. Justice had been served. Getting rid of Vanessa didn't erase the damage she had caused. Winning back Amara's trust wasn't going to be easy. She allowed me back into Jason's life, but she was cautious. She didn't move back in immediately. She needed time, and I was willing to wait. I spent every moment making it up to my son. I picked him up from school, took him to the park, read him bedtime stories. At first, he was distant, but slowly, he started warming up to me again. One evening, as I tucked him into bed, he looked up at me and whispered, I missed you, Daddy. I nearly broke down. I missed you too, son. More than you'll ever know. Amara watched our interactions from a distance. She didn't say much, but I could see the walls around her heart slowly crumbling. Weeks passed. Then one evening, as I dropped Jason off at her house, she hesitated before saying, Do you want to come in for dinner? It was a small invitation, but to me, it was everything. I smiled. I'd love to. Looking back, I still can't believe how close I came to losing everything. I had been blind, foolish, and weak. But in the end, fate gave me a second chance. Not every beauty is a blessing. Some are curses in disguise. And as I sat with my family that evening, watching Jason happily eat his food, I knew one thing for sure. I would never take them for granted again. That brings us to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed this story. Thanks for watching.